Welcome again to Fifth Form English Literature. Last week we would have discussed writing essays, something that of course is the big bulk of your marks. And it's very important that you understand how to write an essay. It's very important that you understand the content, not only just the content but the structure and stuff like that. But right now we're focusing more on content as the first thing we're going to focus on. And for those who were not here last week, I would recommend that you watch the YouTube video. It's on the PCSG YouTube page. It's also linked on the PCSG website more than likely. So I would highly recommend you watch it. You don't probably have to watch the entire thing, but I recommend you watch as much as you can because we went really in depth when it came to mirror. And what I would say as well is that what I did tell them in the beginning, my students, is that you memorizing content is not going to help you. It will reflect in your essays. You need to understand what you are writing. You do not just go on YouTube or even come to these classes. Yes, it's good that you have content, but you must understand what you are writing. Analysis is more than just you going online or going to your teacher or me or whoever and getting their analysis and rewriting it. You need to be able to understand analysis, and you need to be able to analyze a story, a poem, a play on your own. Be able to point out certain things. I'm not going to spoon feed you and just tell you. I expect you to be able to point out certain things, as was done last week. I think it was Ro, I can't remember if it was Ro or Nicholas, who would have pointed out a really nice theme and different techniques and characters and stuff like that, which was really awesome. It's very important that y'all do that on your own. And if you go a little off, I will let you know. Or if I think that it's a little bit of a stretch, I will let you know. However, with literature, it is can be very subjective. You will also, that's another thing I did not tell y'all last week. When you go online and you start looking at different analysis, not everybody's themes are going to be the same. Not everyone's, the devices more than likely will be consistent, but stuff like themes and analysis and stuff like that can get iffy. And how people interpret the poem and how people interpret the story and drama sometimes can vary. It does not mean that they are wrong. What the point of literature is that when you make an analysis, you have to have evidence to back up your analysis. And this is why knowing the author is so important, because the author, when you have the author, you know it, you will know the intent of when they were writing it. You will know, like with the same poem, Sylvia Plath, she wrote that poem, I think, 2 years before she committed suicide or something like that, and she would have talked about her aging and stuff like that in interviews and stuff like that. So it's very important that you know your author, you know when they wrote the poem. Sylvia Plath would have written this like in the 1900s, not like 1901 or anything, but I think I can't remember exactly when, but you know, before the 21st century. And so how women were treated back then is not going to be the same. Therefore, how women saw themselves are not going to be the same, and it goes on and it goes on. So that all of that is very important in your analysis. Do your own analysis. Please do not go into the CSET exam and just write content. Please, it will reflect on your grade. Please, please. So we're gonna continue. Wait, y'all understand what I'm saying? Y'all understand? I don't want to. Pardon?
I understand.
All right, good. Want y'all understand? It's very important y'all understand that. All right, so this is what we would have done last week. The writer obviously is Sylvia Plath. The who we would have said is the Asian woman. The mirror, the candles, and the moon, which were personified. These were personified. These aren't actually people, but they were personified. So I put them as a whole because the mirror is speaking. The lake was speaking. The candles and the moon were referred to as liars, as if they were a person. So that's why I put the who there as a mirror, candle, moon. And I would have put it lake as well. The presentation, y'all would have identified the personification of the mirror of the lake at the beginning of both verses. You would have identified the metaphor and the simile in the last lines. Y'all would have said the tone was gloomy and the mood is sad. Excuse me. This is what y'all said. So I'm going based, you're writing, when we write your essay, our essay is going to be based on what y'all said. Not what I said, what y'all said. All right. The message, which is the themes. I think, I can't remember who pointed out theme. I think it was either Ro or Nicholas, or I can't remember who it was. Ugly Truths, Pretty Lies, very beautiful theme. And then the ones in bold are the ones that I would have put, which was beauty phase, identity, the female condition, and woman versus aging, right? Any of those will work, but we're gonna use Ugly Truths, Pretty Lies for the essay again because that is what y'all highlighted. Now, the objectives for this class is to complete the analysis of mirror. Hopefully we can complete the analysis of stone's throw and begin brainstorming the essay. I have the essay question there, but we will go back. What we're going to delve a little deeper into this class with mirror is the impact of these devices here. That is what we're going to be finishing off. We would have identified them. We were going a little deep, but we didn't really go into the depth in terms of the impact, and that is and how they were used to drive the themes, because that's what these are for. The devices are supposed to be used to push the theme, so we didn't really discuss that too much. We discussed it, but not a lot, as much as I would like. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna move on to a stone's throw. So we're going to go to these devices, personification, the mirror and the lake, and the metaphor and the simile that was highlighted by y'all. All right, and I want y'all to tell me the impact that they have, what they mean to you, what they say in the poem, how they bring forth the theme, and just the general message of the poem. All right. Okay. All right. So let's go to the poem now. All right. All right, before we start, what do y'all remember from this poem? Y'all can all see my screen, right? Hello? What y'all remember from the poem? I hope I didn't leave by accident. Right, I'm still here. What y'all remember from the poem? Wait, somebody else joined. Ems. Hi, Ems. Y'all and these names. Right, so what do y'all remember from the poem? Though the ones that were here. The ones that were here. What y'all remember? Tell me. From what we went through last week. If anything at all. If you don't remember anything at all, I totally understand. It's been a rough 1.5 years. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna review what we did. I'm not hearing anybody's response. Ash and Ro and Felicity, y'all were in my class last week. I can call you out. Y'all were in my class last week. Y'all don't remember anything? All right. So I'm gonna read the poem again. I am silver and exact. I have no preconceptions. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately, just as it is, unmissed by love or dislike. I am not cruel, only truthful, the eye of a little God, four-cornered. Most of the time, I meditate on the opposite wall. It is pink with speckles. Oh yeah, y'all identified imagery as well. I have looked at it so long, I think it's part of my heart. But it flickers. Faces and darkness separates us over and over. So the devices that y'all would have pointed out would have been the personification of the mirror, and also the imagery with it is pink with speckles. Those are the two devices that y'all would have pointed out. And then now I'm a lake. A woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. Then she turns to those liars, the candles or the moon. I see her back and reflect it faithfully. She rewards me with tears and the agitation of hands. I'm important to her. She comes and goes. Each morning it is her face that replaces the darkness. In me she has drowned a young girl, and in me an old woman rises toward her day after day like a terrible fish. The poem, I think the devices y'all would have pointed out in this one would have been the personification of the lake, and I think that was, I don't know, I can't remember if it was Ash or Felicity that pointed out. Oh, and also the metaphor here. This is a metaphor. Ignore what I said last week. This is a metaphor. In me, she has drowned a young girl, and in me, an old woman rises toward her day after day, and obviously like a devil fish, which would have been the simile. So what I want y'all to help me is tell me how these devices what impact would have had, what did they do for the poem, anything along those lines. If you can, if you feel comfortable, tell me. What is I am Sylvan is that? What does the personification of the mirror do? I mean, it's a very big one. So what does the personification of the mirror do for the poem? And how does it carry forward the message of beauty fades, or the ugly truths, pretty lies theme?
Reflect.
Pardon? Chill.
Karen, for my SBA, I had to reflect on like three artifacts where I had to write about. And if this, I don't know if you could explain that to me, miss.
When when all my office hours are from on Saturdays from 10 to 1. So if you want help with your SBA, come to me then, because this class is focusing on the essay writing. Okay. All right. So I am Silver, and it's that definitely is a big deal. It's the mirror is giving its point of view, and it's very important because imagine now as a human being, now as a female especially, when you look into a mirror, you are seeing yourself, you're seeing your beauty, and sometimes you may not even think that you're beautiful. And in this case, when she looks in the mirror, she sees her age. She cries, as we see here. She rewards me with tears and an agitation of hands. She's gloomy. She's sad. And what the mirror is trying to say is that I am not what I didn't do anything. All I did was I am just as it is. I'm missed by love or dislike. I am not cruel, only truthful. All I'm doing is showing you the truth. I'm not showing you anything else, right? So it's kind of almost like the mirror trying to defend itself by this bad rep it gets by women and just people in general. When they look into that mirror, they're like, oh my gosh, I look so ugly, I look this, I like that. And it's almost like the mirror and the lake too, to some degree, is just the mirror specifically in this stanza here, trying to defend itself. I am silver and exact, describing itself. I have no preconceptions, I have no bias. Whatever I swallow immediately. There's no time for me to change what you look like to please you. I have no time. I just boom. You look in the mirror and that's it. Nothing. So that is the impact of that. It is just, for this poem in particular, it's almost like Silver Plath is really trying to give the perspective of a mirror, and almost like making the mirror defend itself against this significant conception, right? Now I am a lake, a woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. Then she turns to those liars, the candles or the moon. I see her back and reflect it faithfully. So the lake is also saying, listen, I truthful. I can show you how it is, what it is. I reflect her back faithfully, which also indicates that the candles and the moon are not based because of their light. Their light is dim. It's almost like a shadow of what you really look like, where the lake is showing you exactly what you look like, right? Then it says here, in me she has drowned a young girl, and in me an old woman rises toward her day after day like a terrible fish. Now I want y'all to tell me This is a very beautiful metaphor slash simile combination here. Let me know what this says to you. Come on. Tell me what it says to you. What do you think that Sylvia Plath is trying to say with this? Y'all real shy today? Oh my gosh! Last week y'all were butting into each other and saying, "Tell me
Oh, what's the question again?
what does this metaphor and combination with a simile say? In me, she has drowned a young girl, and in me, an old woman, rises toward her day after day like a terrible fish."
I think that means that she was aging, right?
Right,
She
for
was getting
sure.
older.
And she's getting older, for sure. She's getting older. Drowned a young girl indicates that she would have probably looked at this lake before. Now you have to really analyze what it's saying. That when she said she has drowned a young girl, that indicates that she has been to this lake as a younger woman. That indicates that this is somewhere probably she grew up, whether in her adulthood or maybe her
Is
late
that
teens.
because it show her suffering because she the age?
Yes, it shows her suffering as well, because an old woman rises toward her day after day. So every day she is seeing herself age. Very good. She is seeing herself age every single day, and that is why she's crying, and that's why she's looking in the mirror and the lake with despair and stuff like that. Like a terrible fish. Why do you think Sylvia Plath would describe this like a terrible fish? Why do you think she used that simile? Like a terrible fish. What does that indicate? What do you think of? Obviously, you think of a real fish swimming up, you know, and coming out of the lake. It's like day after day, like a terrible fish. Now, terrible fish. Why would a fish jump out the water? Give me one or two reasons why.
Because it's been hunted or
It's hunting.
food?
It's either being hunted or it's hunting. More than likely, it's hunting because fish eat bugs, right? So a lot of times the fish will actually eat the mosquitoes that are flying over the lake, because remember, mosquitoes lay their eggs in water, right? So a fish, or it's either will come out, jump out of the water if it's being hunted, or more than likely, more common reason being to eat, to feed. So it's rising every day. Every day it's rising without fail. A terrible fish has to eat every day. A fish has to eat every day. So every day without fail, she is aging consistently, consistently, consistently. I know you could look this up if you want to. We could look up also like the biology behind that, but if you want to see why other reasons why terrible fish, and the reason it has the word terrible there, why not just fish? Because most fish do that. So why terrible fish? Probably this fish is ugly. This fish, all these things, like a terrible fish, they could be ugly looking. There's so many ways that this could be interpreted. It's actually quite beautiful. So yeah, thank you, Chill, for your answer. So overall, now that we have, and again, you're not gonna be able to get the whole analysis. We went through it in depth last week. But for those who are here, now that we have kind of analyzed those devices, and y'all can let me know anything else y'all want to highlight, because there are more devices in here that y'all would have highlighted. But yeah, especially like the personification of the candles and the moon. See some people come in. Hi. We're just going through mirror here. Right. So the personification of the candles and the moon. Candles and moon don't actually lie. That's a human trait, so therefore it's a personification. That's another one that y'all did not highlight. And we would have discussed last week why this was impactful, but I will say it once more. And another thing I will highlight also is that just because a character or a personified object is not mentioned a lot in a story, a poem, or a play, it does not mean it's not significant. It can have a huge impact. This has a huge impact here. This tells us a lot. This tells us a lot. She turns to those liars. Why? To make her feel better about herself, right? And so, she looks into this. It's almost like nowadays women using Snapchat filters or Photoshop, or it's kind of like that. It's a liar. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really show you what you look like. You know what I'm saying? So this is kind of like that. This is almost the filter, the shadow or the dim lighting of the candles on the moon is like a filter that she puts on to make her feel better about herself. So that, even though that is only mentioned like once, it has a huge impact, and it tells us a lot about our protagonist, right? All right, so tell me, y'all have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions yet.
All right, so y'all understand? Y'all good? Y'all Gucci with this?
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go now. We're moving on to A Stone's Throw by Alma Mitchell. Again, look up your author. I'm not gonna do that for you. I really recommend that you look her up, Alma Mitchell, and she will be able to give you more context. Let's go further. Yeah. To give you a little bit more context to the poem. So I'm gonna read it now. We shouted out, "We've got her. Here she is. It's her all right. We caught her. There she was, a decent looking woman, you would have said. They often are. Beautiful but dead scared. Tussled, we roughed her up. A little, nothing much. And not the first time by any means. She'd felt men's hands, greedy over her body. But always were virtuous, of course. And if our fingers bruised her shuddering skin, these were love bites compared to the hail of kisses of stone, the last assault and battery frigid rape to come of right. For justice must be done, especially when it tastes so good. And then this guru, preacher, God merchant, God knows what, spoilt the whole thing. Speaking to her should never speak to them. Squatting on the ground, her level, writing in the dust, something we couldn't read, and saw in her something we couldn't see. At least until he turned his eyes on us, her eyes on us, our eyes upon ourselves. We walked away, still holding stones that we may throw another day, given the urge. All right, what y'all think about that? What y'all get from that right away? Before we even start, I'm not going to say anything. I want y'all to tell me what y'all get right away. Tell me what themes you are thinking. Tell me the devices that you recognize. Hit me. Don't be shy. Y'all, what themes? Let's start with we already know the who, which is Alma Mitchell. We're gonna go back to this strategy here.
Doesn't like the poem allude to like a Bible story?
Yes, it does. Thank you. It is the Bible story. Which Bible story?
Honestly, I don't know which one it is. I think it's the one with the prostitute. I'm not sure that she got
Yes, it is one
stolen.
with the prostitute. Not the prostitute. The one, the girl that committed adultery. The prostitute is a separate one. This is the woman that committed adultery. She would have, the Pharisees would have taken her to Jesus and would have said, "Oh, teacher, rabbi," whatever they would have said. And they would have said, trying to remember the verse now. What should we do? Basically saying in layman terms, what do we do with her? She has committed adultery. You know the law. And a bunch of people started getting stones. And then Jesus was like, he wrote in the dust. And there is a big significance to that in biblical theology, which basically saying when he wrote in the dust, he was basically indicating himself as God, right? And that is why, but that's not really the center of this poem, so I won't really go really deep into that. But there's a reason why he was writing in the dust, Anyways, so he wrote in the dust, and then he said, whoever is without sin cast the first stone. And of course, everybody walked away because everyone has sinned. No one was without sin. And then he would have gone to the woman and said, ask the woman, where are your accusers? Where are your accusers, right? And basically saying, where are your accusers? And then she was like, they are gone, and therefore I do not accuse you. Go and sin no more. That's a little summary of the story, basically. And you will find that Emma Mitchell would have been inspired by that story and basically telling this poem from the Pharisees' perspective, right? It's twisted a little bit because the Pharisees went to Jesus. This one seems to be the Jesus going to the Pharisees, but she was definitely inspired by the story. So that's a good thing to highlight, to point out. What else? What do you think is a good theme? I'm gonna write these down. What do you think is a good theme? Yo, anyone can answer.
Power and powerlessness.
Power versus
Yeah,
powerlessness.
Yeah. The men have power while the women are lazy at them.
Yes, that's a good one. All right. So power versus powerlessness. All right. Anybody else? Anything else? You can give more than one. Because there are many angles from which a poem, to which a theme can come from. So yes, the power. And remember, this is also talking about women. Because remember, in that day, very much so, in that day, women were seen as they were valued, but they were there was a double standard when it came to women, especially when it came to adultery. A man, remember, she can't commit adultery with herself, and so the law in the Bible would have said that if anybody was caught in adultery, both the person committing adultery and who the person was committing adultery with was supposed to be stoned. But the Pharisees, only brought the woman; they did not bring the man, right? And that is a double standard within society, right? So any other themes?
Would sexism be a theme for this?
Who was that? That just Jaden. You could say, but don't want to give one word. I wouldn't recommend giving one word. Give me that in a phrase. If you can, I'll write it down. But if you can, give me it in a phrase. If you can, if you could think of one.
No, I can't.
All right. So one could be, let's say double standards. Because not double standards. Like it's definitely like I'm thinking women in society, but a little bit deeper because the woman is not exactly speaking in this poem. It's really from the man's perspective. So you could talk about discriminate. Like a lot. I remember in a past paper for CSC, the way they portray this poem is from a discriminatory context. So they would have asked a stone's throw and another poem explore discrimination, or they talked about discrimination. So sexism is a good poem. Not sorry, is a good theme. But I'm trying to think of one like in a phrase. So you could say women in society, the impacts of patriarchy. That could be one or two. The women in society. Women in society and the impacts of patriarchy. What y'all think of those? Y'all think those are good, or y'all disagree? And it's okay if you disagree. All right, it's okay. It's fine. All right, no resistance. All right, let's point out. So we have for themes: power versus powerlessness, sexism, women in society, the impact of the patriarchy. Is there any others? Tell me any others. There's no wrong answers, especially in this subject. There are no wrong answers.
Can woman oppression work?
Pardon? Two people open their mics.
Can woman oppression work?
The oppression of women or women oppression?
Woman oppression.
Why you phrase it like that? Women oppression. It sounds. You could rephrase
Or
it.
the oppression of woman.
Yes, the oppression of women is better. The oppression of women, and Felicity, I saw your mic open. You still want to speak, or he stole your answer?
Would the theme of violence be one? Would the man wanting to stone the
Yes.
woman that's like an act of violence?
Mhm. Yes, because it does talk about their desire to almost get revenge on the woman for committed such a what they see. Cause remember, men get offended very easily, right? So, um, they basically got offended, even though it wasn't their wife that committed adultery against them. Remember, men are basically run the world. And as they basically run the world, and when they're like kings, so when they get cheated on or violated, especially in that very intimate way, um, it's not the same as when they violate other people, right? At least in this day, when it came to this specific issue, especially in marriage, right? So yes, you could talk about violence, but how would you phrase that theme? How will you phrase that theme?
The theme of violence was displayed by the men's actions and the harsh words that they spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay. So I'm gonna put violence here. What about this part? You don't touch this part yet. The preacher. He played a again. He came a lot later into the poem, but he made a huge he made a huge impact, right? What is the theme? Can y'all think of a theme more surrounding him, which would be Jesus in quotation marks. Like these lines especially. He turned his eyes on us, her eyes on. He turned his eyes on us, her eyes on us, our eyes upon ourselves. So what do you think? That's very reflective when you think about it. What do you think? Because this was the turning point of the poem. They were about to kill her, and then this guru came, right? So what theme do you think that does that portray? Remember, poems and stories and these things can portray many themes, right? Y'all going real good so far.
Would it be a theme of religion?
Religion? Why you say religion?
Um,
Because remember, don't
this
get
is
mixed up between what inspired the poem and what the theme of the poem is. It was the theme. The poem was inspired by a religious text, but I wouldn't say the theme of it is religion. If you understand what I'm saying, because it doesn't really speak of religion here. Well, it talks about a god. It talks about the god merchant and the preacher, but the overall, I wouldn't say the overall theme is, at least addressing this part, is religion. It's more of how this religious figure, if you want to say that, how this religious figure would have been his behavior in the poem. If you want to say that. You understand what I'm saying? Ash, wait, she gone? I think she probably dropped out. Alright, so any other themes?
Christianity.
Pardon?
Christianity.
Um why you say Christianity?
Because the boy paralleled Jesus.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain it a little bit again. When you have a poem inspired by a religious text or a scientific book or anything, don't get too attached to that. In that, yes, this was inspired by a religious text, and this goes for everything, by the way. This was inspired by a religious text, but the theme is not the religion from which religious text was taken. The inspiration of religious text was taken from. If you understand what I am saying. Okay, who said that? That was M's. Yeah, I think that was M's. All right, so we're gonna stick with the ones you highlight, right? Right. So we're gonna go to tone and mood now. So I want y'all to let me know what tone and what mood do y'all get from this. Remember, the tone is how the writer, the attitude from which the writer would have written it, and the mood is what you feel when you read it. So tell me what tone and mood do y'all get. Anybody? Anybody?
Can sad tone be?
Why sad?
Can be using the way the way the poem is described well.
You sure that's a tone or that's how you feel? Do you feel sad or sympathetic towards the woman, or is the how the men feel sad, or how it was written was sad? Don't get mixed up.
I guess how the men feel this.
I would say the men were more vengeful and angry than sad. I think the woman probably was more sad, if you understand. Hello? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I would say the mood, you feel sympathetic towards the woman, right? Because you feel as though, oh my gosh, she's gonna die, etc., etc. Right? I would say the tone is very vengeful and anger. What y'all think?
It should be like condescending.
Yes, it is. The tone is condescending. Explain. What lines in the poem indicate that?
Well, in the whole poem, you see like throughout the men just really wanted to like tone her down and show like more superiority over her until the preacher came and said to stop.
Right.
But if he didn't come, they would have still continued going on. And the woman had no say whatsoever.
None. Right? Y'all see any sarcasm in this poem? Especially with the brackets. You see brackets in this poem. Y'all find any sarcasm or anything in this poem at all? Or any other devices? Y'all said the tone, condescending, mood, we got sympathetic, tone, we also got vengeful, anger. What else you feel from this poem? The mood is often easier to identify than the tone. What mood do you all feel from this poem? Or how do you feel about it? And it could be different moods throughout the poem, you know. Because we have sympathetic when you see, especially how they describe them giving her stones as like kisses, and how they, the justice must be done, and how they are, especially in this line here, what she said, by any means, what she said, wait, beautiful but dead scared, tussled, we roughed her up, a little, nothing much, you know, and obviously that seems to be like nothing much, as though there's much more for her to look forward to. And not the first time by any means. She'd felt men's hands greedy over her body, which is what tells us that she has committed adultery. But always were virtuous, of course. You know what I mean? Like that tone there is like, Ours are virtuous, like ours were justified. You know what I mean? Of course. And if our fingers bruised her shuddering skin, those were love bites compared to the hail of kisses of stone. You feel, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. These men were the last assault and battery, frigid rape. Rape is not, rape. The last assault and battery, frigid rape to come of right. Meaning they are of right. This indicates we are justified in doing this. For justice, and we see it here, for justice must be done, especially when it tastes so good. These men, right, are not even the men that this woman, these men, right, more than likely were not her husband, you know. And these men feel so strongly to punish this woman. Y'all like, whew, the drama. And then this guru. What's a guru? I ain't talking about beauty gurus. What's a guru? We all understand by that, especially with the context that is being portrayed here. This guru preacher, God merchant, God knows what, spoiled the whole thing. So that it brought disappointment. Oh my gosh, speaking to her. And the thing is, after they spoiled the whole thing. And you see the impact of one man on a whole group of people, a whole group of men. Right? And this one person stopped the whole thing. That's powerful. What does one man have power over a whole group of people with stones? They're armed, you know, with stones. So, and this group, and spoiled the whole thing. Speaking to her should never speak to them. Look how much they resent the woman so much that they don't even want to speak to her. They just want to beat her. That's all they want to do. They don't want to speak to her. They don't want no explanation. They don't want to know how it happened. They don't want to speak to the person, the man that she before she could even say the man that she slept with. They don't want to talk to her. They just want her dead, squatting on the ground to her level. So the preacher is going down to her level. That's symbolic. Going down to her level. Writing in the dust, something we couldn't read, and saw in her something we couldn't see. At least until he turned his eyes on us, her eyes on us, our eyes upon ourselves. So that's a point of reflection there. So whatever he said, whatever he did or said in between here that the poet doesn't write, made them so convinced that all that anger, all that resentment, all that desire to kill her, all of a sudden became unjustifiable. We walked away, still holding stones that we may throw another day, given the urge. So whatever this man said or did or anything, after that, she for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 verses would have described how much these men wanted to kill this woman, explaining why and all that. And in this one stanza here, this man did something to make them walk away. After all of that, all of those were love bites compared to the hail of stones. He spoiled it, man. He exposed us. And in the actual biblical story, as I would have said before, Jesus would have said, who is without sin cast his first stone, and this is alluded to here. He turned his eyes on us instead of looking to the woman now. He looking at us now. Her eyes on us, the woman looking at them, and our eyes upon ourselves. Reflection. Our own sin. Look at our sin, which is this is alluded to from the real story. We walked away, still holding stones, that we may throw another day, given the urge. So that means they still got that anger, they still got that resentment, but not today. I was exposed today, not today, not today, but another day. So, y'all understand? What do y'all understand? What else do you get? What else do you feel? Like, what else? And pay attention to the brackets as well, by the way. Pay attention to these brackets. These brackets are important. A decent looking woman, you would have said. They often are. What does that say? She's beautiful, but in their eyes, she's deceptive. She's an adulteress. She's nasty. She look nice. She's pretty. But all these people that do these type of things, they often look good. It's almost like in the society we have today where, oh, when you got a pretty girl, what is not even today, pretty girls especially, men that sometimes just watch themselves, especially with specific races and stuff like that, and all that. And we see that here. So even back then we had those biases towards women and men and whatever, based on their race, based on their looks, based on something physical, right? So that continues today, and we see it even back then. That was happening. Beautiful but dead scared. Tussled, we roughed her up. So what else? Come on, guys, tell me, what else do y'all get from that? What else do y'all get from this poem? We discussed the tone, we discussed the mood, we discussed the themes. Now I want y'all to point out what else you get from the poem and some devices. I talk enough. Any devices in here? We're gonna go for the first stanza. We shouted out, we've got her. Here she is. It's her, all right. We caught her. There she was. A decent looking woman, you have said. They often are. Beautiful but dead scared. Tussled, we roughed her up. A little, nothing much. Any devices or techniques that we see here, or that you see here? Look at the punctuation even. Pay attention. Devices don't have to be just a simile or a metaphor or just the very dialogue, the punctuation, all that. Tell me, what y'all see? Don't be shy, guys. There's no wrong answers. Just tell me what y'all see and what y'all highlight. I can't help you if I don't know what you're thinking. Okay. All right. So it's 5:01, yeah. All right, we're gonna go over a little bit, but we shouted out, we've got her. You see this exclamation mark? They're excited, man. They got her. Here she is, another exclamation mark. It's her, all right. As other and these are we, so these are different people saying these things. We caught her. There she was. So we see the excitement with the exclamation marks, the dialogue that Alma Mitchell uses. So we shouted. So we shouted obviously indicates there was more than one person. Maybe it was one person in the crowd or a group of people in the crowd and stuff like that. There she was. A decent looking woman, you would said. They often are. And that was kind of, as I said before, a little bit indication of bias, in the sense of, oh, these type of women, these are the type of women that do these things, and type of that kind of attitude. Then we see here, beautiful but dead scared. Dead scared. What is that? That's a device right there. What's that? Y'all can y'all recognize that? Y'all, anyone knows what that is? Dead, beautiful but dead scared, and they're acknowledging her beauty here as we
Metaphor?
Why you say metaphor?
because it's kind of like you're using a simile without comparing like whereas.
Sorry. Hold on a minute. Say it again.
I said it's kind of like you're using a simile with just out comparing the word like whereas.
Beautiful but dead scared. I understand what you're saying. Because you can't be dead and scared at the same time. You're either dead or scared. Pardon? You're sticking really bad. I didn't hear you. A paradox. I was thinking that as well because you can't be dead and be scared at the same time. So what it's saying, but what it's really saying is where it's phrased, dead scared, is this another way of saying you're scared to death? If y'all understand, that's another way of saying it. So instead of saying but beautiful but scared to death, they're saying beautiful but dead scared. The way they phrased it, it would sound like a paradox because you can't be dead and scared. It's like saying all this breathing killing me. That's a paradox because if you're not breathing, you're gonna die. So how can breathing kill you, right? But I understand. I have it here in my notes as a hyperbole. What's a hyperbole? Y'all know what a hyperbole is. Hopefully you've done it in full form. We all know what a hyperbole is. I have it here. So that y'all understand. Oh gosh. Cooperate with me, man. I'm gonna send these notes to you when they're finished. Hyperbole right there. Hyperbole is a figure of speech and little device that creates heightened effect through deliberate exaggeration. Hyperbole is often a boldly overstated or exaggerated claim or statement that adds emphasis without the intention of being literally true. In rhetoric and literature, hyperbole is often used for serious, comic, or ironic effects. Do y'all see that here? I don't think because I'm teaching that. If you don't agree, you don't agree. It's fine. But dead scared. The reason I think this is hyperbole is because I do believe it's exaggeration. Because again, you can't be dead and scared at the same time. But you can argue because she was being stoned, she was scared to death. Because she was technically going to die. Right? So there are many arguments on this one, whatever. But I have it here in my notes as a hyperbole. What do y'all think? Y'all don't think anything? Y'all have no thoughts about that? Someone turn on their mic. I think it was, who said that it was someone said that it was a metaphor. Someone said people could argue that it's literal. So people could argue that this is literal because she was literally being threatened, to die, right? People could say it's not a metaphor because of that. People could say it is a metaphor because maybe because this was before they started to tussle with her and stuff. There's so much ways you could interpret this. So, yeah. So we're going to move on from that. Y'all could tell me if y'all have anything to say about this. I'm going to write everything y'all said down. I can't remember who said it was a metaphor. Someone said it was a metaphor. Someone said it was a paradox because you can't be dead and scared at the same time. That's why you said that, right? Who said that? I think who said that? They're gone? Alright. Can't be dead and scared at the same time. So there's tension there. Tussle, be roughed her up, a little, not think much. And not the first time by any means she felt men's hands. That is allusion to adultery. Greedy over her body, but always were virtuous, of course. Obviously, hands cannot be greedy. So that is, I guess I would say, her hands. Y'all, what y'all think that is? She felt men. Let them say it. She's felt men's hands greedy over her body. What y'all think that is?
While they were like taking her away, they
Mhm.
probably were like touching her and stuff
Yes.
and carrying.
And not the first time by any means that she felt men's hands greedy of her body, but ours were virtuous, of course. And what that's saying basically is that they're so like driven to kill her basically, that they got their hands all over her. But they're saying that we got our hands all over her, but we are justified. All right, it's not that man that she slept with. It's we are touching her and roughing her up and toughing her up because she deserves to be raped. She deserves to be stoned. She deserves to die. That's basically what that's saying. So their hands are greedy, but not in a sexual way, but more in a murderous way. That is what that's saying. In a murderous way, they can't wait to grab her and kill her. Do whatever they want to do with her that is negative, for her to be punished, essentially.
Like, can't it also be like perceived like in a sexual way?
It can be received in a sexual way because it says and not the first time, which is an indication the fact that she probably had sex. She committed adultery with another man whose greed was in a sexual matter, and that's why they say here, I point fingers, oh y'all can see my finger, but ours were virtuous. So they're saying the last time that men's hands were greedy all over her body, it wasn't virtuous. So that's a good highlight rule. All right, next stanza. Make a note of that, because we're gonna use all of this in our essays. And if our fingers bruised her shuddering skin, these were love bites compared to the hail of kisses of stone. Beautiful metaphor. The hail of kisses of stone, the last assault and battery, frigid rape to come of right. They're gonna rape her with stones. They're gonna oh my gosh, they're gonna do so much. They plan to do so much terrible things to this woman, you know. So what y'all see in that stanza there, and it continues up here saying, "For justice was it done, especially when it tastes so good." And that also shows you the desire there. So what y'all see here, what does this tell you? And there's many that these were love bites compared to this hail of kisses of stone. These are metaphors. What is these metaphors saying to you? What is it alluding to? What is it telling you about the men? What did it tell you about the violence that is portrayed? Tell me.
Doesn't it like portray the men as like hypocrites since they're basically doing the same thing as the other?
They're basically doing the same thing as the.
Yeah, they're basically doing the same thing as our men, but they see themselves as superior to them and justify their acts.
What do you mean? I don't understand. You mean the one that, because these, when they said these were love bites, it's kind of like a jab at the woman, because again, she would have made love with another person other than her husband, right? And so they're basically saying, this is nothing. What we're doing to you now, us bruising your skin, tussling you up, throwing you on the ground, this is nothing. This is love bites compared to when we gonna stone you. Hail of kisses of stone. Another allusion to adultery and sex, and also a jab at the woman, saying, "Ugh, like these are love bites compared to the hail of kisses of stone. Like we're gonna hail of kisses. You know how you know." And the reason they also would have portrayed that is because this is pleasurable to them, not to the woman, but to them. They're enjoying. They're enjoying. And hail is something that comes down from the sky. It's like hail is like rain. It rains down. It is in multitude, right? So when they say hail of kisses of stone, you know, is a lot of stones. There's a lot. There's a lot of stones going on. You these are love bites, and love bites are like hickeys. I don't know if y'all know what that is. Like hickeys, a scar that is left when someone is like kissing you or sucking on your neck or whatever. And so they're saying, well, this is nothing compared to what we're gonna give you. This is child's play. That's basically what this is saying. But I believe that the poet would have used this this analogy here because of the type of sin that she would have engaged herself in. You understand, Ro? Or do you agree, disagree? It's okay, guys. Y'all could disagree.
Well, I mean, I view it definitely, but I guess you're correct. I'm
What
not
do you
sure.
mean? Tell me. Explain. Don't be scared. Explain yourself. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you
I
understand.
view it as like you see the men, right?
Mhm.
The thing is a persona. Like they consider themselves virtuous, like great compared to
Right.
the other men, even though they're doing like essentially the same thing
As I essentially the same thing as who?
as the men throwing stones.
Aren't these men that threw stones? Or
I
just
view it more like in a sexual way, if it makes sense.
I understand. It is a sexual reference. You're correct in saying that. It is a sexual reference because of what she would have engaged herself in. And they do see themselves as virtuous. They do see themselves as justified. They do see themselves as superior. You are correct in that assessment. I'm just asking me because throughout this entire poem, it's the same men. We shouted it. The persona doesn't change. If you understand what I'm saying. And they are hypocrites, as we see here, as is alluded to, I should say, as alluded to here. Our eyes upon ourselves, which is a reflection. So they are hypocrites from that perspective. So you're not wrong. You understand, Ro? It's important you understand, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do understand.
Good. Anybody else has any comments, queries, what y'all think? Any other, we're going to go through here, what other devices before we go, because we're over time. I see someone in here, Jay. Hi, Jay. And I didn't address Heller. Y'all on these names. Alright, so we're going to go to this one now. And then this guru, preacher, god, merchant, gods know what, spot the whole thing, speaking to her, should never speak to them, indicates, as I said before, squatting on the ground to her level, writing to dust something we couldn't read, and saw on her something we couldn't see, use of rhyme there. At least until he turned his eyes on us, her eyes on us, our eyes upon ourselves. Repetition. We walked away, still holding stones that we may throw another day, giving the other urge. That shows, that last stanza show, right? That these men didn't learn from this merchant. They did not. They walk away. They realize that they're hypocrites. They realize that they're crappy people. But they're still holding these stones. They're still holding that anger. Stones are symbolic in this poem. They're still holding that anger. They're still holding that resentment, given the urge. So when they trigger it again, despite what this god merchant would have revealed to them as alluded here, it doesn't matter to them. He's there now, so he protecting this girl, but next time he and there, we going at it. Right? That's what that shows for sure. That they have not learned from what this merchant, which is supposed to be Jesus, is saying. And Elma Mitchell, when you look her up, will give more context if you find anything. Good. All right, so we would have highlighted devices. We've highlighted these two metaphors here. The use of punctuation, the use of rhyme, the use of repetition here, that is significant. The use of the brackets, that's not device, but the brackets, indicates, something. This here, y'all could get back to me about this because y'all all said different things. Someone said paradox, someone said metaphor, and I have in my notes hyperbole, but I did these notes a while back, so I will go back again. So someone said hyperbole, someone said metaphor, someone said paradox. So we're gonna go through that, and then we're gonna look at the more of the devices, more of their impact. We discussed a lot of it here, and then we are going to start the essay. I'm going to start writing, and then we're going to go into structure and body, introduction, and now that we have the content, and I'm based on the question, I'm going to show you the question here. This is from a PCSG original mock exam, and this is inspired, of course, excuse me, by your CSAT exams. I have two questions here on Tempest Anti-John, and then here. All right. The poems Mirror and A Stone's Throw explore female experiences. Write an essay in which you describe the experiences of each female. In this essay, you must also discuss how the reader can be affected by both of the experiences and examine one device that is used to present the female's experience in each poem. Right? So that is the question that we're going to tackle next week. Y'all can tell me what y'all think about it, etc., and then we're gonna go. Y'all good? All right. Y'all could give me any feedback. Tell me how y'all feel, and yeah. Anybody? All right. So goodbye, everybody. I hope y'all have a great week.